2-1. What's up, guys? Ben Golan here with Chris Level, back with you. Brought to you by PRMI, Primary Residential Mortgage Incorporated. That's Jim Mitchell and his team. They make home buying easy and convenient, whether you're looking to refinance, purchase an investment property, purchase a home for your kids going off to college, whatever you need, they got you. Jim Mitchell, he's on Redditor Sports. You all know him, so hit him up. He'll be glad to work with you. And yeah, he's a good guy.
He and I texted with each other in the last day or so. Yeah, so he is quality people. And to those of you that I think that are on the site that I saw in Indianapolis at Hinkle Fieldhouse, whether it was outside the arena or after the game, and you told me to keep hope alive, appreciate it. Thank you for being on the site. Thank you for watching whatever, all the stuff that we do and all that stuff. So anyway, appreciated. Always fun to see Red Raiders, especially out of pocket like Indianapolis, Indiana, of all places. So yeah, fun basketball game to broadcast last week. Just not if you're defensive minded. I guess it was probably a bit
Yeah, I'll take it. Chance McMillan, if he can play like that, I like your chances, moving forward. But
it's funny how I've had so many people reach out to me about how optimistic they now are after watching that game, even though it was a loss. And I just think the Tech fans are so offensive minded that you don't mind losing 103-95. You just don't want to lose 16-13 in football or something. Or everything's broken. It's just funny. I got a kick out of it because I was like, and then so many people are like, hey, so what'd you think? And I'm like, well, you lost in overtime. But anyway, so it's just interesting. But yeah, Chance McMillan shot the ball unbelievably well. That will continue. You need a little more depth. I don't know where it's going to necessarily come from. You can only ask your guards and some of those folks that do so much before, I think the wheels are going to come off, like from the standpoint of they're just going to run out of gas. It's just unrealistic to ask more out of Joe and Pop. And they both play 40 plus minutes in that game.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, it's a Sunday afternoon and we're talking hoops and all that stuff. Red Raiders versus Omaha, I think this Wednesday back in Lubbock. And anyway, and you're playing your next big non-conference game is against Vanderbilt.
That's
a lot going on that night.
Yeah, that's a good segue right there. With we can start there with the bowl game. It was announced today, Texas Tech and Cal and the Independence Bowl in Shreveport. You mentioned the basketball game against Vanderbilt the same day. This is something that it wasn't official, but it was kind of looking like that was going to be the case where you were going to end up in Shreveport in the last day or two. A Power Five matchup. So tough to complain about that. But just what do you think whenever you saw the official word of Texas Tech and Cal?
I think against the Power Five opponent is obviously an ideal scenario. I think because you were, as you kind of looked at how the weekend played out, you're kind of thinking if Texas makes it into the playoff, which I don't know if anybody from a Tech fan standpoint was rooting for this. I was just looking at it from the way that the process works. If Texas makes it to the playoff and then Oklahoma makes it into one of those New Year's Six games, everybody at that point kind of bumps up a notch. But Texas makes it to the playoff. Oklahoma does not make it. I think they're going to San Antonio. I think that's right. And playing Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. And so, I think it really changed nothing from the bowl selection process, and you still had too many teams, too few bowls, and so but it kind of falls in line. West Virginia gets traded to the Mayo Bowl, I guess, and so you were either it was in the last 48, 72 hours. It really pointed to Phoenix and to Shreveport. I think they take Kansas. I think, you have a head-to-head win over those guys. They had a better overall record and all that stuff over you. So anyway, and I'll be honest, I'm not real sure next year when the playoff is expanded, I'm not real sure. And then you have an entirely new league. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
With a bunch of new members. I don't know what your bowl tie-ins will be. I don't know how that process will work. I don't really know. There's a lot that I'm not super sure about with the bowl process going forward outside of the actual playoff. So anyway, so I don't know. This was kind of a cumbersome, confusing situation in some ways, but yeah, you ended up going where many people thought you would go anyways, to Shreveport playing Cal. So the end, and it's the earliest bowl game I can ever remember. I think your Birmingham Bowl versus South Florida, you played that one before Christmas, but that was the only time I've ever been a part of a bowl game before Christmas, and all that. And so this one is much earlier than that, but ESPN owns these almost all these games, and they stack up the 16th. They're going to stack up the 23rd, and then they're going to stack up all the nights after Christmas on through New Year's Day. So that's just kind of how the TV inventory goes.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's a good point you brought up for next year because all the Pac-12 games are what's gonna happen with them, and do they go to the Big
Oh
12 or
yeah.
so that'll be something to look forward to. But I mean, I know you mentioned Kansas too. They kind of the Phoenix Bowl chose Kansas over you in a
And
way.
I don't know how that works, Ben. I really don't know if it's a true there's politics involved. There's um the league gets involved. And then there's certain things, because I mean it's not necessarily a pick or a record or whatever. I mean, Oklahoma went ahead of you last year, even though you had a head-to-head win and a better record and
Mhm.
all those things. It's kind of, so that part is a bit shrouded in secrecy. But you're right, they do come off the board and go to that game, whereas that is supposedly like a peg above. Although it's at a baseball
UNLV,
stadium.
and
It's
they're
at a
playing
baseball
UNLV.
stadium. Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're playing UNLV. Yeah, and the teams share a sideline. It's like the watching that game on TV gives, like, in those games in baseball stadiums where the sidelines are the same, it makes my head break. So because it's like this isn't like real football, like, kind of thing, so I won't miss that part about it. But anyway, we'll see. Independence Bowl, December 16th, Saturday night. Yeah, hopefully Aaron Rodgers and Sonny Cumbie are in close proximity. We can have honorary captains and a coin flip and all those things, and we can reminisce about the greatness that was 2004 back in San Diego when these two teams met, and Cal had been left out of the I guess the BCS
And we'll get into,
in favor of Texas, ironically enough.
yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. And we'll dive into the game more. I mean, we're just learning about them. They lost their offensive coordinator. They have a bunch of guys in the transfer portal, but um, you know, kind of moving away from that game towards the transfer portal, unless you had something else to add about the game itself.
No, I mean it's what's interesting about these scenarios now is that who's playing in the game for
Hmm.
these teams, who's and that's not just Texas Tech, but who's in the portal, who's going to opt out, who's what coaching changes do teams have going into these things. I mean, it's like bowls can be very like awkward existence. Who's motivated to be there? I mean, all that kind of stuff. And even more so now because of the portal and guys basically just going, "Hey man, I'm getting to the portal. Okay, appreciate it." And it's like kind of immediate. Like you're not really. I mean, Reggie Pearson, Kobe Minor, Philip Liddy. Who else am I missing from last year? Donovan Smith. None of those guys were on the trip or on the sideline or participating or anything like that. I would expect the same for the long list of portal entries for your team this year, and that's okay. That's just part of college football this day and age. This is the way it works.
And so, yeah, so that what you're just talking about, it's what we talked about last time when we previewed the transfer portal. Since then, you've had seven guys announced: Tyler Shuck, Jerron Bradley, Nehemiah Martinez, Miles Price, and then three offensive linemen: Landon Peterson, Matt Keeler, and then most recently, and there's a 10-page plus discussion, Monroe Mills. Do you have any thoughts on maybe any of those guys? Were they expected? Just
Well,
kind of.
first of all, nobody can. This is the system. Nobody can fault any of these kids for exploring what their options are. you can point to, oh, they were unhappy here, or the scheme didn't fit them, or they want to upgrade. Or you can say, hey, maybe the team was like, hey man, it's not really working out here. Okay, so good luck to you. Or you can say, hey man, um, I'd like to see how much I'm worth out there on the open market. I'd like to go have a bigger role somewhere else. I'd like to, I mean, and all of these things can be true, and they're all factoring in. Um, I think you'd be naive to think that some of the players that have entered, it hasn't been about finances. I think you'd be very naive if you think, oh no, surely not any of these guys. No, some of these guys, yes. I think, and again, all you can do is have a transparent conversation between program and player, if and when it comes to this. And what do you want? Here's what we need. Does it fit? Can we make it work? If not, good luck to you. And then if it's good luck to you, you go try to upgrade if you can. In some cases, I think you may be able to. In other cases, it may be tough. Who the heck knows? But that's the task, and that's the sport, and it's awkward. It kind of sucks, all this movement. It's hard to keep up with, but this is the system. It's not going away, and finances are involved. Wanting to upgrade in like classifications, or wanting to play more in my last year. I mean, all these things, like, Shuck. I mean, I don't think there's any ill will with him leaving. He wants to be a starting quarterback. I think you already have your starting quarterback here. And so you can't fault him for wanting to go play. I mean, it's his life, it's his career. He can go do what he wants. If Monroe Mills or Jerron Bradley or Miles Price, if they think they can play more or get paid more or live closer to home or whatever their reasoning is, good luck. If Nehemiah Martinez wants to play more, compared to what he did this year, then he has that right. And then I think there's certain guys that if they're a catalyst to what you're doing, you drop everything you're doing and you do everything you can to keep them in the fold. So bottom line is your offensive line needs to be better. It needs to be fixed. It's going to be difficult to continue to cycle through this. You hope that Caleb Rogers stays. Mm-hmm. But that's a position group that really is, we can talk about scheme and play calling and lack of speed and, injured quarterback all we want. But until that group up front, until it gets fixed, it's going to be a bit of a problem on offense. I don't care who's calling the plays, who's running the plays, what plays they're trying to run. If you can't get better up front, you're going to have a hard time. And that's why you saw a bunch of folks in this weekend that play offensive line, and you'll see some in next weekend that play offensive line, and you try to figure out if there's a fit there and all that stuff. But the second thing is, like any skill player that you lose on offense, I'll be shocked if you don't do everything you can to bring in someone that's much faster than what left here. That's the harsh reality of your skill on offense right now. You are glacially slow in some spots, and it's painful. And you've got to, and I say that I'm overstating it a bit, but I'm just saying you've just got to get faster. You just have to be quicker, faster, all those things, and have a little more juice, and explosiveness, and all those things, because I know there's been times where you've had a few guys running open and your quarterbacks have missed them, and there's the lack of quarterback continuity, but there's a lot of times where you just don't have people open or you can't block long enough to get them open.
Yeah.
Kind of problem 1 and 1A.
Well, before we get into, you mentioned they had 4 offensive linemen visiting this weekend. We believe there will be a couple of receivers, maybe a tight end also next weekend. I just wanted to kind of recap the guys who are leaving. There was a report that Tyler Shuck had committed to UCF. I think it was premature, but I think he wasn't in a visit there this weekend, so that would be interesting. I mean, you don't play them, so that would be interesting if he ends up in the Big 12. And then
I mean, yeah, going to play for in Florida under Gus Malzahn after all the success he's had with quarterbacks, you could do a lot worse.
Could
Certainly,
definitely do.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, absolutely.
And with Jerron Bradley and Miles Price both in the portal, they were both, either starters or playing big minutes, except for Price had missed the last two games or a lot of snaps, not minutes. With both of them out, looking at the bowl game, you have Coy Aiken, Jordan Brown, Xavier White, but you would expect
Dre
some
McCray.
of the, yeah, Dre McCray. You would expect some of those freshmen to, potentially see the field for the first time.
Yeah, I mean, possible. I mean, obviously, I'm still kind of, I don't know, curious where Loic is and where JJ Sparkman is. I mean, they could do the same thing that Bradley and Miles did, or they could choose to come back. So they factor in at some level too. But yeah, I mean, you've got Kelby Valson, TJ West, DJ Crest, those three guys. I think there's some different things about those guys that they really like. They've been lighting it up on the scout team. They've all got some size and range to them and some speed to them. I think, you know, one of them is a little more polished than the rest of them. One of them's maybe got the most potential, but that's the beauty of bowl practices is that and that's really the way this is going to go. It's the beginning of spring.
Hmm.
It jumpstarts the spring. It just so happens there's a game at the end of it that's not red and black game, and it'll be televised and it will count. But that's kind of the reality of what some of these lower level bowl games are when you have portal entries or you have opt outs or whatever you're dealing with your roster. Is that, and that's the reason the NCAA said, hey, your red shirts can play in these postseason games. We're not going to hold them out. I mean, and so that way to ensure that you've got enough folks that can participate and all those things. So yeah, and in a way, it makes it kind of fun.
Yeah.
It makes it kind of fun and a bit more intriguing for what is an otherwise like a kind of a meaningless game to some. It makes it gives you a different reason to watch and pay attention because it's kind of a precursor to next season and all those things. I don't know if there's some big parade if you're winning the Independence Bowl. However, I think I think if you do it with some youth and some of the guys that you'll carry on the torch going into next year, I think you have big reasons to feel good about it. Kind of like last year.
Yeah, and then offensive line wise, Monroe Mills, you would expect Ty Buchanan to potentially fill that role. He's played a bit, and
Yeah, and that's where you may see some freshmen,
yeah,
especially at the backup. I mean, like Nick Fattig and Caden Carr and guys like that. I mean, I would certainly think, but yeah, Monroe Mills, I think has played his last game here. And Ty Buchanan and would potentially start at left tackle unless you move Caleb Rogers over to left tackle and let Buchanan play right. Who the heck knows? Could be a variety of different changes with this one as it relates to personnel or positions or whatever. But that's what kind of in some ways makes it kind of. Cal's got some of the same stuff. They've got a handful of guys in the portal. They've got Jake Spavital, I think, is already going to be in Waco, and I don't know if they've already promoted from within, so I don't know who's going to be the play caller for Cal in that game, as he's is taking the Baylor job as the OC and all those things. So anyway, who knows? But I just hate it for the Tech fans that game is on the same night as your basketball team is playing another televised game against Vanderbilt and a neutral site setting in Dickies Arena in Fort Worth because it just kind of cannibalizes itself a bit. It hurts TV ratings, it hurts attendance, I mean, all the things when people would love to. It's like you say sometimes, man, I just sat around here all weekend, I didn't do anything, and then there's the one weekend it's like you get invited to like 6 things, and it's like, oh, all just hits at once. Well, this is December the 16th. Too many things going on at the exact same time.
yeah, yeah.
I know you get invited to like a bunch of stuff on the
I,
weekends. That's why I said that.
I don't get invited to anything, and
We can only hope to live your social life there.
the 16th is the worst day for me, but it's not about me. That's okay.
Okay.
8 visitors this weekend. Uh, D2 FCS, Canada, JUCO, all of it. 4 offensive linemen, 3 defensive backs, and a tight end. These are all positions they really need. I think the visits
Oh yeah.
went well. Do you have any thoughts on any of those visitors
Offensive
coming?
line will continue to be the main focus until you get what you need. I think while you may initially started out wanting 2 to 4, maybe that number's now increased from 3 to 5. It's just got to get fixed, and you hope that you hope you get the right number. You hope you get the right guys that you want. I think you did well this weekend. I think maybe some of that news trickles out through the next week, but we'll see. I would expect some more at the same position coming in next weekend as well, and maybe throughout the. But I mean, these portal. It comes fast and furious, and it's kind of like you pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, we want you. You in? Yes or no?" And like, because there's only so much time for these kids to go take these visits, because at some point the early signing period happens, the quiet period stops, and then they all want to be where they're going to be, because the portal ends January the 1, I guess January 1st, and then a lot of schools have filled up or they don't have available spots, and all those kinds of things. So it becomes fast and furious, and this is where you trust James Blanchard and Brian Nance, to have evaluated and that core group and the people that are doing that on who you want to go after, because there's an evaluation process and all that stuff, and that's the way that this thing is built.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I bet you see some receivers come in
Yeah.
as well. And then again, then it goes down to if there's anybody out there that somebody on this staff knows or has coached before or has a relationship with that maybe doesn't necessarily fit a need position, that those are also possibilities too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and you don't know what you don't know. I will say this too. I think there's more portal entries for Texas Tech still to come.
Yes.
I don't think you're done there. It could be an interesting week from that standpoint. So you just have to, but this is the process these days. You try to have conversations, you try to have relationships, you try to have honesty with each other, and all these things. And then people, whether it's finances, closer to home, larger role, just getting to play, scheme, I don't know, whatever it may be, or change of scenery, who the heck knows? Variety of reasons why kids would say, man, I don't want to be here anymore. Or, hey, program says, hey, we just don't want you here anymore. Whatever, I mean, this is just part of the deal. And it's not going anywhere. So you just, like I said, my advice there is keep your head on a swivel, because you just never know.
Yeah, D1 portal officially opens tomorrow. Until now, the only players who could officially get in are the ones whose coaches got fired and things like
Right.
that.
A lot of intend to get in
Yes,
posts and things like that. Yes.
correct. And then bowl game on the 16th. And then you mentioned signing day on the 20th. I want to mention signing day because I thought it was interesting earlier today on Twitter was reported by Dave Campbell's Texas Football that both Kenny Perry and Zach Kittley had interviewed with UTEP for their head coaching job. And then about 2 minutes later, Kenny Perry tweets out a picture of him and Juice Johnson and Zach Kittley about to get on a plane to go recruit. Do you have any thoughts on any of that?
That report is accurate, I believe. And if I just was always taught, because I think people will go, why would you want to go interview at UTEP? Those jobs are different now with the portal. I mean, look at what New Mexico State just did. And I was always taught, I mean, Sonny Dykes years ago, before the 2005 Cotton Bowl, interviewed with Rice. And at the time I thought, wow, what you leave Texas Tech as the co-OC and you'd go to Rice? And he looked at me and he goes, dude, there's like 130 of these jobs. If somebody wants to talk to you about filling one of them, you go talk to them.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm like, understood, totally get it. I didn't, and that's just, because that's a lot of these folks' goal, man. I want to be a head coach. I want to be in charge. I want to see what I can do. Yes, it's about making as much money as you can, but it's also like putting your staff together, doing things the way you want to do it, and all those things. I can't sit here and tell you that I think either one of those guys is going to get the UTEP job, but I think there's other candidates involved as well. I think you'll hear, and you've seen reported. There's one at UNLV. There's one at I think maybe the Texas State OC. There's an Austin P head coach.
Yeah.
one of the Idaho schools. I think I've seen all kinds of stuff coming out of El Paso. But Kenny was in the. I mean, think about it. Connect the dots here. Kenny was in well, he was a finalist for the North Texas job last year.
Hmm.
They picked Eric Morris. I mean, and that Kenny's got a goal of wanting to be a head coach. I think Joey fully supports that. UTEP went against Western Kentucky and Houston Baptist in the years that Zach Kitley was there. There's a lot of familiarity there. So it's not hard to figure out why that they would be on a candidate list, and that's what you want. You want folks that other people want to talk to. So, yeah, I mean, hey, Chris, any changes to the coaching staff this year? It's almost always a yes.
Yeah.
You just never know where or who. I mean, nobody saw the Emmett Jones thing coming.
Yeah.
Last year, and that was really the only one that you had. But that's the industry. That's the profession. It rarely stays the same. I mean, as much continuity as you had last year is extremely rare. Heck, you were one of 28 programs this year that had your head coach and both coordinators return, and your starting quarterback.
Yeah,
that you're one of 28 programs, and so odds are something will change there. Whether addition, subtraction, both, who the heck knows? But we'll see and try to follow it as best we can.
Yeah, well, do you have anything else? Because we just got the timer that we're running out in our soon.
No, good update. I hope everybody, like I said, keep your head on a swivel. Pick one to go to on the 16th, or try to watch them both, split screen it. I'm not even sure which one I will be sent to yet. I'll be fortunate enough to be at one or the other, but it sucks because I would have loved to have been at both. And all that. We'll keep following the portal, keep following the visits, all the stuff. So anyway, as we always sign off on these deals, keep hope alive, everybody. Appreciate you being on Red Raider Sports, and thanks for saying hi to me, to the folks there in Indianapolis. I appreciate it. That stuff's awesome.
Yeah, well said. Thanks, guys, and we'll do this again soon.